Hey guys, I'm Gavin with First World Survival, and today I will be showing you how to make a bamboo crossbow. So what you'll need is about 5 feet of string. I'm using string from the inside of paracord. Then you will need probably about 7 feet of bamboo, a saw, and a knife. You will start this by cutting off the broken edge, which is usually like snapped and peeling off like this. You need to make it so it's solid and there's no parts peeling off. So you start by just sawing it off and making it so there's a clean edge. Now we're going to be making the bow part, and for this you want to cut off about 2 sections of bamboo. Each section's probably like 8 to 16 inches, so it really depends how you want it. You want it to be about 1.5 feet to 3 feet. It depends how big. I'll be cutting off 2 sections for this. Now what you want to do is split the bamboo right at the top. You want to do this so you get pretty much like a wooden plank. It's going to be pretty thin. The thinner it is, the better, because if it's too thick, when you put it on the crossbow body, it'll snap. So try to make it thin. Now what you want to do is take your knife and scrape it like this and try to make it thinner. You also want to be constantly testing the bend, but don't do it too much because it will snap before you even get the chance to make it a bow. So you pretty much just take your knife and you start shaving parts off of it. And you gotta keep testing it or else it's gonna snap when you actually try it. So every once in a while just keep doing a bend like this and then it should be good. Then after you get it pretty thin, what you're gonna do is start making it so it gets thinner like this way. So you cut it off at an angle so it gets more of a point at the end. This will make it so it has a better bend and you'll be able to get better shots off. Now what you want to do is, after you have a good bow, test it to make sure it's good. And then what you want to do is put the string on. So for this, you just got to make some notches on the side so the string doesn't fall off. If you're using thin string, it only has to be pretty thin for the notch. So it's pretty easy to make a notch. All you have to do is just carve a tiny bit into the side. And you gotta make one on each end of this. And here's what my notch looks like. It's just little carving into the bamboo. Now that I have the notches on both ends, I'm gonna tie the string on. So to tie on the string, what you want to do is you want to get a knot that tightens for one of them, and then just a plain knot to keep it tight with the bend for the other one. So on the top one right here, I'm going to be tying a knot that tightens. I'm not very good at tying knots, but I'm going to do what I can. So for this knot, what you want to do is tie it around here, then put it over your thumb, all the way over, and then bring it around here and take your thumb out and pull it through. I'm not very good at this, but it works. So for this one, it's gonna help keep it tight. Then for the bottom one, you just tie whatever you can do. I usually just tie it like this a couple of times around, and then I get it under this and I bring it around and tie it in the other direction. And then I bring it around under here from this way. And I keep tying it like this until I run out of string. And then to top it off, what you do, you just tie it in a knot, and this will keep it tight. So you should have a bow, and this you could use as like a mini bow, or you can use it to put in the crossbow. Now to make the body of the crossbow, you're going to want 2 to 3 pieces of bamboo. It's going to be pretty much like this, and you'll even have a trigger at the end. So you got to saw off the 2 to 3 pieces. I'm going to use about 2.5 right now because that's like the perfect length. It all depends on your bamboo. So now what you're going to want to do is saw down, or first you need to find out how thick your bow is, and you want to dig about that far down so you can have the bow on like this. What you're going to do is just take your saw, or whatever you're using, and saw in 2 different places, probably about 1/4 inch thick, or however thick your bow is at the thickest part. So it'll fit into that spot, and then you'll just pull the bow back like this. There will be a trigger. You'll pull the trigger out and it'll launch. Now what we need to do is make the trigger. So what you gotta do is put your bow into here, and then pull the string back as far as you can without breaking it. So probably for me, right here. Now you want to mark it with something. Just cut a little piece off right there. And then you want to use your knife and drill holes in it, because this is where we're going to be putting the trigger. Now that you got the top hole done for the trigger, what you want to do is make one on the bottom side too, because you want to put it all the way through to get the trigger working at its best. So you pretty much do the same thing and try to get it as lined up as possible. It's not going to hurt that much if it isn't. And you want to just make it so you want to make the trigger at an angle kind of like how my arm is. If it's too forward, then the string's going to fly off. But if it's like this, and you put it here, then you pull it out and it goes flying straight as it can. Now what you want to do is make the trigger. To make the trigger part, you want it to have a thick top part, kind of like a key, and then it gets thin and it's at a consistent thinness from under the top part. So you do pretty much the same thing as if you were making a bow, but you're definitely not going to need that much. So right, you're going to have probably about this much, and you're just going to break off to about here. Right now I have this piece, and I'm going to try and make this one work. The trigger might take a couple tries even for me to make. You want it to be pretty strong, and you definitely need it to fit in both of the holes. you want it to be the thickest part at the top, and then you just make it thinner as it goes to the bottom. And you always want to keep testing it to make sure it's going to fit. Right now mine's still not there yet. And the bamboo that grows near me is more of like a decoration type bamboo, and it's not as good as like wild bamboo that you'd find in some other countries, but it still works pretty decently. So right now I have a piece that looks like this, and I'm gonna see if it fits. Yep, it fits. So now put the bow on and see how the trigger works. See, the trigger's like this, and you hold the bowstring down with your thumb, you pull it out, and it launches. What you're gonna wanna do probably, if you're like me, I cut it a little too big for where the bow fits, and you're gonna want to put either sticks, leaves, or something, like maybe even tie it, and it should work better because my bow's a little loose. You could also put the trigger in the bottom and pull it out through the bottom too, but it really depends however works best for you. So I finished my crossbow and my arrow, and like any other survival tool or weapon, it takes a lot of practice to get used to, and I'm still not good at it. I have horrible aim with pretty much any type of bow still. I need to get some practice in, and you can adjust this to however you want because people make it differently and it doesn't always end up perfectly, so you got to adjust it to what it needs. And I'll be shooting one today. This thing shot probably about 35 feet.